In the late 1800s, in a quiet rural corner of Massachusetts, stood the Hartwell estate, a sprawling, ivy-covered mansion owned by Thomas Hartwell, a wealthy but mysterious man. To the townsfolk, the Hartwell family seemed blessed, fine clothes, servants, and a home filled with laughter during grand dinners. But behind the lace curtains, a curse, or something that felt like one, was unfolding. Thomas Hartwell married 5 times in his lifetime, and one by one, each wife descended into madness. The first, Eleanor, was a bright young teacher. Within 2 years of marriage, she became withdrawn, plagued by hallucinations, speaking to people who weren't there. She died in an asylum. The second, Margaret, was a painter. She came into the Hartwell home full of life, yet within months she began painting only dark, chaotic images, terrifying portraits with eyes that followed you. She, too, eventually lost her grip on reality. The third wife, Claire, was known for her strong faith, but even she began muttering about whispers in the walls, unable to sleep for days. The fourth, Isabella, became so paranoid she refused to eat unless she cooked her own food. And the fifth, young Emily, barely 21, was last seen being taken away in a carriage, her eyes hollow, her voice shaking with a single phrase, "The house watches me." The townsfolk whispered of curses, of ghosts, of something evil in the Hartwell bloodline. But the truth, unearthed decades later, was far less supernatural and far more tragic. The Hartwell estate was not haunted by spirits, but by generational trauma, abuse, and emotional isolation. Thomas himself had grown up in that same house with a father known for his cruelty and a mother who suffered from undiagnosed mental illness. He never learned how to love in a healthy way. His wealth kept outsiders from asking questions, and the women he married were slowly eroded by the same coldness, control, and psychological neglect that had broken his own mother. This story isn't about a curse, it's about the consequences of ignoring the mind's cry for help. Today, mental health professionals look back at such cases as reminders that neglect and emotional abuse can destroy even the strongest of hearts. If there's one thing the Hartwell tragedy teaches, it's this: you must care for your mind, confront your pain, and never stay silent about your struggles. When most people hear the word inheritance, they think of money, land, jewelry, or property. But there is another kind of inheritance, one that cannot be sold, gifted, or placed in a safe deposit box. It is the inheritance of pain. Trauma can be passed down like a shadow that stretches across generations, even when no one speaks about it. It seeps quietly into family traditions, into the way people talk or don't talk about feelings. It lives in the fears we cannot name, the reactions we cannot explain, and the patterns we keep repeating without understanding why. Think about a child who grows up in a home where arguments end in slammed doors and weeks of silence. That child learns early that conflict means danger. So, as an adult, they avoid hard conversations, not because they're weak, but because their body remembers the fear from years ago. They might raise their own children the same way, not out of malice, but because it's what they know. The cycle continues. Scientists now tell us that trauma doesn't just change the mind. It can change the body at a cellular level. Stress hormones, survival responses, and anxiety patterns can be embedded into our nervous systems. This means a grandchild can feel the emotional weight of something that happened to their grandparent decades before they were even born. And here's the heartbreaking part. Families often don't realize what's happening. They think that's just how we are, we're short, tempered, we don't trust easily, we keep to ourselves. But what they're really saying is, this is how pain taught us to survive. In the Hartwell family's case, trauma was not an isolated incident. It was a legacy. Thomas Hartwell didn't wake up one day deciding to emotionally destroy 5 women. He was shaped by years of coldness, neglect, and instability in his own upbringing. His father's cruelty became his definition of strength. His mother's mental illness became, in his mind, a woman's natural fragility. Without ever naming it, without ever questioning it, he passed this darkness on to every relationship he touched. Here's the crucial truth: inherited trauma does not have to be your destiny. You may have been born into chaos, but you can choose peace. You may have inherited fear, but you can choose courage. You may have learned mistrust, but you can choose love. Breaking the cycle begins with awareness. Ask yourself, why do I react the way I do in moments of stress? What beliefs about love, money, or life did I absorb as a child that may not be true? What fears do I carry that don't belong to me, but to those who came before me? Sometimes the most revolutionary act you can commit for your family is not to earn more money or gain more status, but to heal yourself, to go to therapy, to talk openly, to teach your children that it's safe to cry, safe to ask for help, safe to say, "I'm not okay." Imagine if just one person in the Hartwell bloodline had stopped and said, "We cannot keep living like this." Imagine if Thomas had seen his own wounds clearly enough to seek help before marrying even his first wife. The chain of suffering could have been broken. You may never be able to erase what happened before you, but you can ensure it does not continue through you. Your healing can be the turning point in your family's history, the moment the shadow begins to shrink instead of grow. So, when you hear that trauma can be passed down, don't just think of it as bad news, think of it as a challenge, a mission. You've been given the chance to change the story, to hand down something new to the next generation: resilience, kindness, self-worth, and hope. Because if pain can echo through time, so can healing, and that is a legacy worth leaving. Love is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience. It can heal wounds, inspire greatness, and bring meaning to our lives. But there is a truth about love that people often ignore until it's too late. Love without understanding can be as dangerous as no love at all. In the early stages of romance, everything feels magical. We see the best in someone and they see the best in us. We imagine building a life together based on passion, laughter, and shared dreams. But real life is not built in candlelight. It is built in the daylight, where flaws, fears, and past wounds are fully visible. Understanding means knowing more than someone's favorite color, food, or song. It means understanding their history, the victories and the scars. It means knowing what makes them feel safe and what makes them panic. It means recognizing the invisible triggers that can set off storms in their mind. Without that understanding, even the purest love can turn toxic, not out of malice, but out of ignorance. In the Hartwell family, Thomas married 5 women over his lifetime, and in each case, the marriage began with charm and promises. He offered wealth, security, and an escape from ordinary life, but he never took the time, or perhaps never cared enough, to truly understand the women he married. If he had, he might have noticed Eleanor's sensitivity to stress, Margaret's need for creative freedom, Claire's deep faith and desire for community, Isabella's growing paranoia, and Emily's youthful need for reassurance. Instead, he treated each wife the same way, with rigid control, emotional coldness, and complete isolation from friends and family. This was not love. It was possession disguised as love. And when love lacks understanding, it becomes selfish. It demands without giving, it takes without listening, it assumes instead of asking. We often enter relationships thinking, if I love them enough, everything else will work itself out. But love without understanding is like building a house on sand. It may look beautiful for a while, but when the storms come, it cannot stand. Understanding is the foundation that keeps love strong through hardship. It requires patience, humility, and a willingness to learn, not just in the beginning, but continuously. People change, circumstances shift. The person you marry at 25 may be very different at 45. Without ongoing understanding, you may wake up one day next to someone you no longer recognize, and they may feel the same about you. To love with understanding means asking deeper questions. What fears do you carry from your childhood? How do you handle stress and grief? What do you need to feel secure in this relationship? What are your dreams and how can I support them? It also means paying attention when someone's behavior changes. A partner becoming distant, irritable, or withdrawn is not always a sign of rejection. It may be a sign of pain. Without understanding, we respond with resentment or defensiveness instead of compassion, making the wound even deeper. In the case of the Hartwell wives, each woman's descent into mental instability was not just a result of her own vulnerabilities. It was amplified by a lack of understanding from the man who had vowed to cherish her. They needed empathy, support, and emotional safety. They received none. The result was a spiral from which none of them returned. In your own life, whether in romance, friendship, or family, remember this. Love is not just a feeling. It is an act of learning someone's soul. It is a commitment to see not only who they are when life is easy, but who they are when life is hard, and to stand beside them through it. If you enter love without understanding, you are entering blind. And blindness in love is dangerous because it leaves you unprepared for the realities that will inevitably come. So before you say, "I love you," ask yourself, do I truly understand this person? Do I know what they've been through? Do I know their weaknesses, not just their strengths? Am I willing to adapt my love to meet their deepest needs? Because the truth is, love without understanding can break hearts, destroy trust, and in some cases, as with the Hartwell family, leave scars that last for generations. But love with understanding can do the opposite. It can heal wounds that have been there for decades. It can create a safe place where people grow into the best version of themselves. In the end, love without understanding is like trying to heal a wound you've never seen. It may feel like you're helping, but you could be making it worse. Real love looks, listens, learns, and then acts. That is the kind of love worth building a life on. If you break your leg, you don't wait a few months to see if it gets better on its own. You rush to the hospital, you get an X-ray, you demand treatment. You know that without care, the bone could heal wrong, or not at all, leaving you with a permanent limp. But when the mind breaks, when anxiety grips like a vice, when depression turns the world gray, when trauma replays like a broken record, too many people say, "I'll get over it eventually." They wait, they hide it, they minimize it, and in that delay the wound festers. We live in a world where physical pain is taken seriously, but mental pain is often ignored or dismissed, by others and even by ourselves. People wear casts on their arms without shame, but hide their therapy appointments like secrets. This difference in urgency can be the difference between healing and collapse. The truth is simple: your mind is part of your body. If it is unwell, your whole life suffers. Mental health is not a luxury or an extra. It is foundational. The Hartwell family tragedy is a painful illustration of this truth. Each of Thomas Hartwell's 5 wives displayed early signs of mental distress: anxiety, paranoia, mood swings, isolation. In a world that valued appearances over well-being, these signs were brushed aside. There were no urgent interventions, no doctors called for the mind, no neighbors stepping in with resources. By the time anyone acknowledged the severity of their suffering, it was too late. Had these women been treated with the same urgency as someone suffering from pneumonia or a severe injury, their stories might have ended differently. They might have been given therapy, rest, community support, or even a safe space away from the oppressive environment of the Hartwell home. Instead, mental illness was seen as a personal flaw, a weakness to be hidden. Imagine if, the moment a person began showing signs of emotional struggle, we acted with the same speed and seriousness as we do when someone collapses with chest pain. We wouldn't say, "You'll be fine, just push through." We'd say, "This is serious. We need to get help right now." The sad reality is that society often waits until someone's mind is at a breaking point before taking action. And by then, the path to recovery is far longer, harder, and sometimes impossible. We need a new standard, immediate response to mental distress. If you notice someone withdrawing from activities they once loved, that's a warning sign. If someone is unable to sleep for days, is constantly anxious, or expresses hopelessness, that's not just a phase, it's a call for help. If you find yourself feeling trapped in sadness, rage, or numbness, don't wait for it to pass. Seek help now. Urgency matters because the mind is the control center of your life. A healthy mind helps you work, build relationships, and dream about the future. An unhealthy mind makes even the simplest tasks feel impossible. The longer it goes untreated, the more it shapes your identity and robs you of joy. Just as untreated physical illness can lead to permanent damage, untreated mental illness can leave lasting scars, not only on the person suffering but on everyone connected to them. Families break, friendships dissolve, dreams are abandoned. It's time we stopped treating mental health care as optional. Just as you go for annual physical checkups, you should also have mental health check-ins. Just as you'd rest and recover from the flu, you should allow yourself time to heal emotionally without guilt. Just as you'd rush to a doctor for chest pain, you should rush to a counselor or therapist for emotional pain. The Hartwell story reminds us of the deadly cost of delay. If you take anything from their tragedy, let it be this: do not wait until the mind completely unravels before seeking help. Your mental health deserves the same respect, urgency, and care as your physical health. Because when the mind heals, life feels worth living again. In the end, we have two choices when it comes to mental suffering: act now or regret later. If you or someone you love is struggling, treat it like the emergency it is, not because it's dramatic, but because it's real. You wouldn't ignore a bleeding wound. Don't ignore the unseen ones either. When people think of danger, they imagine obvious threats: violence, accidents, illness. But one of the deadliest dangers in life doesn't arrive with flashing lights or warning sirens. It slips in quietly, unnoticed, and settles in like a shadow: isolation. We are not built to live cut off from others. Humans are social beings. Our brains, our hearts, and even our physical health are wired to thrive on connection. Yet in a world full of noise, many people are living in deep loneliness, sometimes even while surrounded by others. Isolation is dangerous because it starves the soul. It takes away the oxygen of encouragement, the warmth of empathy, and the mirror of honest feedback. Without connection, our thoughts can spiral unchecked, our fears can grow louder, and our sense of self-worth can fade. Over time, this can lead to depression, anxiety, paranoia, and even physical illness. In the Hartwell family's dark history, isolation played a central role in the unraveling of 5 women's minds. When each wife married Thomas Hartwell, she entered a grand estate that looked like a dream from the outside. But inside those ivy-covered walls, she was cut off from friends, from family, from community. Letters were intercepted, visits discouraged, and the outside world grew more and more distant. At first, the women might have told themselves it was fine. After all, love and wealth seemed enough. But slowly, without anyone to confide in or share their fears with, their mental state began to erode. They had no one to reassure them when strange thoughts crept in. No one to say, "You're not crazy, you're just stressed. Let's talk about it." Instead, their own minds became echo chambers where fears grew louder with every passing day. This is why isolation is so deadly. It doesn't just make you lonely, it distorts your reality. Without outside voices, your own thought, especially the negative ones, become your only truth. And when those thoughts are shaped by fear, trauma, or exhaustion, they can pull you into a downward spiral that feels impossible to escape. Isolation doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like skipping social events because you're too tired, ignoring calls from friends because you don't feel like talking, slowly withdrawing from hobbies you once loved, being in a relationship but feeling emotionally alone. At first, it feels harmless, even comfortable. But the longer you stay in isolation, the harder it becomes to reconnect. You begin to forget how to share yourself with others. You stop believing people would even want to listen, and here's the harsh truth. Isolation is not just an emotional danger, it's a physical one. Studies show that chronic loneliness can be as harmful to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases the risk of heart disease, weakens the immune system, and shortens life expectancy. Breaking isolation takes courage. It means reaching out even when you feel like no one will understand. It means accepting invitations even when you'd rather stay home. It means admitting, "I need people." That admission isn't weakness, it's survival. You may think you can handle life alone, and maybe you can, for a while, but no one escapes the cost of prolonged isolation. The Hartwell wives learned this in the most tragic way. By the time they needed help, they were so far removed from the world that no one even knew the full extent of their suffering until it was too late. If you take one thing from their story, let it be this: stay connected. Even when life gets busy, even when you feel misunderstood, even when you think you don't need it, Build relationships you can lean on. Be that safe place for others. Send the text, make the call, knock on someone's door. Because sometimes the smallest act of connection can pull a person back from the edge. Isolation is a silent killer, but connection is a silent healer. It may not fix every problem, but it gives you something to hold on to when your own strength feels like it's slipping away. And sometimes that's enough to save a life. Every family has private matters, personal details that aren't shared with the outside world. That's normal. But when privacy turns into secrecy, when truth is buried under silence and lies, a dangerous chain reaction begins. Secrets don't just stay hidden. They grow, and in time they destroy. At first, a secret can seem harmless. Maybe it's something small, avoiding a difficult conversation to keep the peace. But over time, one secret leads to another, and before long, an entire family can be living inside a web of half-truths. The walls are painted with smiles, but the foundation is cracking underneath. Why are secrets so destructive? Because they replace trust with suspicion. They create a culture of fear. Fear of being found out, fear of judgment, fear of what the truth might do if it escapes. And when fear is allowed to take root, love cannot grow. The Hartwell family is a chilling example of how secrets can erode a household from the inside out. To the townsfolk, the Hartwell estate was a picture of elegance and prosperity. But inside those walls, a different reality was unfolding, one no neighbor was allowed to see. Thomas Hartwell kept the truth of his wife's suffering locked away, both figuratively and literally. When Eleanor began hearing voices, he told people she was unwell, but never explained the depth of her pain. When Margaret's paintings grew darker, he quietly sold them off, hiding any that revealed too much. Each wife's breakdown was treated not as a cry for help, but as an embarrassment to be concealed. No one outside the estate knew the full truth. And without the truth, no one could intervene, no doctor could offer treatment, no friend could offer comfort, no family member could offer rescue. The secrecy was a prison, and every woman in that house was trapped inside it. Here's the harsh reality: secrets protect problems, not people. When we hide addiction, abuse, mental illness, or financial trouble, we think we're keeping our family safe from shame. In reality, we're keeping the problem safe from being solved. In many families, secrecy starts with good intentions. A parent doesn't tell the children about financial struggles to protect them from worry. Siblings don't share their mental health struggles because they don't want to burden each other. A spouse hides a painful truth to avoid hurting their partner, but over time the silence becomes its own kind of harm, because what is hidden cannot be healed, and secrets don't just harm the person keeping them, they harm everyone in the family. They create emotional distance, they breed distrust, they send the message, some truths are too dangerous to speak. That message doesn't just stay in one generation, it gets passed down like an unspoken rule. Children grow up learning to hide their feelings. They become adults who keep secrets from their own families. The cycle continues. Breaking this cycle requires courage. It means choosing transparency over comfort. It means saying, we have a problem and we need to face it together. It means understanding that short-term discomfort is worth the long-term healing it can bring. Imagine if, when the first signs of trouble appeared, Thomas Hartwell had been honest with the community. Imagine if he had sought help instead of hiding shame. Perhaps Eleanor would have received treatment. Perhaps Margaret's art could have been therapy instead of a warning sign ignored. Perhaps the other wives would have walked into a home where pain was met with compassion, not concealment. The truth can hurt, but secrets can kill. They kill trust, they kill connection, they kill the chance for recovery. If your family is carrying a heavy truth, remember this: speaking it aloud doesn't destroy the family, it gives it a chance to survive. Silence may feel safe, but it is only safe for the problem, not for the people living with it. In the end, the Hartwell family's legacy was shaped not just by trauma, but by silence. The tragedy is that the truth came out only when it was too late to change the ending. Let their story remind us, honesty may be hard, but it is the only path to healing. If you owned a rare, priceless car, you wouldn't just drive it endlessly without maintenance. You'd check the oil, refill the fuel, wash it, and protect it from damage. Because you know that neglecting it would lead to breakdown, Your mind is far more valuable than any possession you own, yet many people treat it as if it will run forever without care. They wait until it breaks down to pay attention, but mental health doesn't work that way. Your mind needs daily care, not just when you're in crisis. We live in a world that constantly bombards us with stress. Deadlines, bills, family responsibilities, social media pressures, bad news from every corner of the globe. Without deliberate mental upkeep, all of this slowly wears down your resilience. It's like rust on metal. It may not be visible at first, but over time it weakens your ability to cope. The Hartwell family story is a dark reminder of what happens when the mind is neglected for too long. Thomas Hartwell's 5 wives did not fall into madness overnight. It was a slow erosion. Days of worry turned into months of anxiety. Loneliness deepened into paranoia. Lack of support transformed temporary struggles into permanent scars. None of them had consistent mental care. No healthy routines, no emotional outlets, no professional help. We often think mental care means only going to therapy when something is wrong. That's part of it, but true mental care is daily maintenance. It's choosing habits that strengthen your mind the way exercise strengthens your body. Daily mental care can look like protecting your mornings, starting the day with prayer, meditation, gratitude, or a moment of quiet before chaos begins. Managing what you consume, limiting toxic news, gossip, or online content that fuels anxiety and comparison. Keeping your body healthy. Nutrition, movement, and sleep directly affect mood and mental clarity. Making time for joy, doing things that make you laugh or spark creativity, even for just a few minutes a day. Staying connected, talking to friends, family, or mentors regularly, even if it's a short message or call. Just like physical health, prevention is easier than cure. You don't wait for your teeth to decay before brushing them. You brush daily to prevent decay. Your mind deserves the same consistency. Here's the hard truth. If you don't take care of your mind every day, life will take care of it for you. And not in the way you want. Stress will choose what you think about. Fear will dictate how you act. Anxiety will steal your joy before you even notice it's gone. The Hartwell wives, trapped in isolation and secrecy, had no such mental nourishment. The longer they went without care, the more fragile they became. What could have been addressed early with conversation, rest, or therapy turned into something irreversible. The same applies in our everyday lives. Small stresses left unchecked can grow into burnout. Disappointment left unprocessed can grow into bitterness. Sadness left unattended can grow into depression. Caring for your mind daily isn't selfish, it's essential. When you are mentally strong, you think more clearly, love more deeply, and handle life's challenges without breaking under the weight. But there's another layer to this. Your mind is the root from which every part of your life grows. If the root is healthy, the branches, your relationships, work, dreams, can flourish. If the root is neglected, everything connected to it will suffer. That's why mental care isn't a when I have time activity. It's a priority. Even 5 minutes of deep breathing, journaling, or intentional gratitude can reset your perspective for the day. If the Hartwell family teaches us anything, it's that neglecting the mind is like neglecting the foundation of a home. The walls may stand for a while, but eventually the cracks will show and collapse is inevitable. So, protect your mind like it's your most valuable treasure, because it is. Feed it positive words, guard it from unnecessary negativity. Rest it when it's tired, challenge it when it grows stagnant, and above all, check in with it every single day. You can't always control what life throws at you, but you can control how well prepared your mind is to handle it. Daily care is the difference between a mind that crumbles under pressure and a mind that bends but does not break. Because when your mind is strong, even the hardest storms can't sink you.